Hello and welcome to Back to Basics. I'm Rico Burton and I volunteer with AARP Arizona. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to more than 100 million Americans 50 plus and their families. That includes health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulation publications, AARP the magazine and AARP Bulletin. In the month of May, we're going to leverage communication and marketing to position AARP as a wise friend with resources to help consumers spot and avoid scams and seek support, and as a fierce defender that advocate for better protections on consumers' behalf. Areas of focus include gift card payment scams, fraud involving cryptocurrency, and AI scams. Visit us at the URL that you're going to see going across the screen for tips, tools, and resources. We thank you for being here. If all of you feel free to just put in where you're from, say hello to us. If you have questions, put them in the chat and we will try our best to get to them. And we are ready to tell you some wonderful information about sleep. Hi there, Coach Sherry Ann. How are you?
I'm good, Lady B. Thank you. And how about you?
I won't complain. Thanks for asking. Hope you had a great Mother's Day.
I did. Thank you. And you as well, and all the other mothers out there. And yes,
Absolutely.
as you're tuning in, please let us know where you're tuning in from. I always love to see that. And like Lady B said, if you have questions about what we're talking about today, which is the importance of sleep, and you have comments, suggestions, anything, please put them in the comments. And I would love to see and hear them. But yeah, sleep is so incredibly important. And I know we've talked about it here on Back to Basics. And the reason we circled back around is because not everyone saw it. And plus, it's just one of those things that it's one of the main pillars of health. And it's just, it gets overlooked. And, 2/3 of our population are chronically sleep deprived. So
Wonderful.
like, Lady B, how well did you sleep last night?
Not badly, actually. Not badly. I think I got a relatively good night's sleep. It was broken in a couple of places, but the time that I was asleep, I was asleep.
Do you remember dreaming?
No.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. Our dreams do happen in one of the stages of sleep, and we'll cover those stages. But yeah, it's what people wonder, like, is it a bad thing if I didn't dream or if I don't remember my dreams? You did dream. You just didn't remember them, probably because you were in such a deep, deep sleep. So the next question I usually ask people when we're talking about sleep is, did you have to wake to an alarm?
No.
Perfect. Yes. And a lot of the times we do have to wake to an alarm, especially if we're rising early. But I encourage people to try to get to bed earlier so that they are waking naturally on their own without an alarm. Because the problem with alarms is you are most likely being awakened in the middle of a sleep cycle, which
Mm.
can be a problem because it disrupts your circadian rhythm. And then that's why people can tend to feel tired later on, like mid-morning. It's because they didn't complete a sleep cycle and their body's kind of like, aren't I still supposed to be asleep? So we are supposed to complete sleep cycles. So awakening on your own is really, really important. And it took me a while to figure out how many hours I needed. And then I finally figured it out. And so I rarely wake to an alarm. I do set it just because I can't afford to be late. I have kids to get off to school. But thankfully, I would say at least 5 mornings a week, I'm awakening before it goes off, like 5 to 20 minutes before it goes off, which is nice because being jolted from sleep by an alarm never really feels very good.
Is part of that though because our bodies get into a rhythm? I know that I wake up, it doesn't matter where I am, just almost like on a schedule. And maybe my little angel, God just wakes me up when he wakes me up. And I hear people that work throughout the week and have to get up early. And then they'll say, you know what, I'm going to sleep in on Saturday. I don't know how to do that because I
Yeah.
still wake up.
Me too. Yeah. And the thing is it's kind of like the reverse weekend warrior, where they're just trying to bank sleep on the weekends. And there is no such thing. If you're chronically sleep deprived throughout the week, you can't make up for it on the weekend. The damage is being done when you're chronically sleep deprived, and you can't really make up for that and reverse that damage on the weekend.
Okay.
So no, when people say they're sleeping in, I bet they're only really sleeping in a little bit, or they're just allowing themselves to not have to wake to an alarm. So usually people are setting their alarms Monday through Friday and just saying, when they say they're going to sleep in on the weekend, it's really just, I'm not going to set an alarm. I'm just going to let my body wake when I wake.
Okay.
But then you have, like my teenage boys, like, because they have to wake to, I usually go in and wake them up. They do set alarms, but I always feel like it's a little more gentle when it's a human, like gently rubbing you and saying, hey, it's time to wake up, rather than this alarm. But then they sleep late on the weekends, and it's just because they're still growing. They're still pushing out a lot of growth hormone, and their bodies are still trying to grow. So, and that's why babies sleep so much. It's because their bodies are constantly turning over and growing. But yeah, as adults, my goal that I tell people is aim for 7 hours. 6, if you're getting under 6, you're going to find yourself sleep deprived. So it's aim for 7. 7 to 8 is great. My happy place is about 7 hours and 20 minutes. It's kind of funny because I use an Oura ring to map my sleeping, and it's pretty consistent, like right around 7 hours and 20 minutes, give or take 5 minutes. That's
Now,
where my
Darlene is asking us, does a nap make up for missed sleep? Because she finds it easier to nap now that she's retired.
So no. So you can take naps. I always encourage people to take like a 20-minute nap if you're going to take a nap. Like, avoid long naps, because if you're doing a long nap, then you're going to go ahead and get into a whole sleep cycle. And if you don't complete your sleep cycle, it can kind of disrupt your evening routine, your evening sleep. So if you're taking naps during the day, I always encourage people to do power naps so that you're not entering a full sleep cycle. And when I say a full sleep cycle, what that is there's 4 stages of sleep. And a sleep cycle can range anywhere from 90 minutes to over 2 hours. It just depends. Everyone's sleep cycle is slightly different. And so you have your awake, and then you have your light sleep, which is that's where most people spend their sleep. Then you have your deep sleep, which usually occurs early on in the evening. And so that's your deep sleep. And then you have your REM, which stands for rapid eye movement. And that's where you dream. And that's when you're really, really, really asleep. People think that when they're in REM, it's a light sleep, but it's not. It's a very deep sleep.
Mm.
So we kind of rotate through that cycle. And so when we come to the awake stage, even in the middle of the night, you don't necessarily awake, but your body thinks it's going to awake, and then it just goes right into another sleep cycle. And so that's the rhythm that you want to be in at night. And what's happened is, through the Industrial Revolution, that changed. Like, we used to go to bed, way back many, many, many years ago, when the sun went down. And yes, they had candles, and yes, they had different ways to illuminate, but the day ended when the sun was down, and the day started when the sun arose. And so, because of Industrial Revolution and light bulbs and work shifts and shift work, doing night work, that has completely messed up our circadian rhythm and being able to sleep at nighttime and be awake when the sun is up. That's what our bodies are designed to do. And so it's challenging, but with lights, we are a little more productive and more successful, but it does disrupt sleep.
Well, and somebody else asked, what about power naps? And that might have been the 20-minute nap that you were talking about. And Marlene had said that, she sleeps when her body, kind of tell her that she needs to go to sleep, which is wonderful. Now that you retired, when you were retired, you couldn't do that. You had to stay awake, didn't
Well, that's good, Darlene, that you set it for an hour, because you're probably just being very restful And then, but you're only sleeping that 20 minutes in there, which is great, because that does allow you to have some rest and relaxation, and it's okay to take daytime rest and relaxation. Take time to do some meditation and prepare yourself. And we'll get into some tips because I have 8 tips to go through to help get you into a good sleep hygiene and having good sleep. But the importance of it is what I want to talk about right now. And the reason is because when we are sleeping, our brain actually washes itself because we have toxins throughout our body that we come in contact with: the air we breathe, the things we put on our skin, and the food we put in our mouth. So our body at nighttime, when we are sleeping, the brain literally washes itself and it takes all the amyloids out. And if you're not getting good sleep, those amyloids can start to create plaque in your brain. And this is what they have discovered is one of the precursors to Alzheimer's and mental dementia. So it is critical that you allow yourself not only to allow your body to repair itself, but to allow your brain to wash itself, to file away memories, because you don't have good memories when you don't sleep well. It's not just a matter of being tired and, oh, I can't really remember that. It's like literally not filing away information. So, and it's really, really imperative just for brain health alone, let alone your body. But our body does also take care of itself when we're sleeping. Muscles get repaired because we use them throughout the day and we damage them. So at nighttime, they're repairing themselves. And it helps regulate your hormones when you're sleeping. And you have these appetite hormones called ghrelin, which helps to stimulate your appetite, and leptin, which suppresses your appetite. And when you're not sleeping good, those hormones get out of whack. And so typically people that don't sleep well also have weight issues. And so there's so many different things that are happening when you aren't, to your body when you're not getting good sleep. You have a higher chance of heart disease. You have an increased risk of high blood pressure. So and with the weight gain, like I'd mentioned, because your hormones are out of whack for food, you have a higher chance of getting diabetes. So there's so much benefit. I mean, we talk about exercise is good for your body, but sleep is just as important as moving your body.
Wow, this makes me really feel for moms who sometimes are working 2 jobs and having to take care of their kids and things like that, when it's not their intention not to get good sleep, but it's the way that their life is set up right now that
Mhm.
doesn't allow for that. There was one other question, then I'm going to let you get into your tips because I want to make sure we get all 8 of them. Somebody
Mhm.
asked, is our sleep interrupted when we wake up to go potty?
Yes and no. And that is a great question. So sometimes when we awaken at night and people can't get back to sleep and they're sitting there and tossing and turning, a lot of the times it's just you have to go to the bathroom. So get up, go use the toilet, and get right back in bed, and you'll start to go right into another sleep cycle. So when you come out of your cycle and you're in that wake phase, if your bladder's full, you're gonna really awaken, and it's gonna be like, you need to go to use the toilet. So go do it and get right back in bed. And with that, I have a really good tip is try not to turn the light on. And if you have to turn a light on, I suggest putting a red light bulb, because where you might need to turn, or because you can have color changing light bulbs. So in our bedrooms and bathrooms, we have remote controlled light bulbs. And so in the evening, they get turned to red, and that's to help wind down. And also, if you have to get up in the night to use the toilet, then when you have to turn it on, you turn it on and it's red. And the reason for that is if you have white light, like all of a sudden your brain's thinking, oh, like I said earlier, industrial revolution, white light, oh, it's sunlight, it's time to be up, let's go. So try, if you're arising in the middle of the night to use the toilet, try to not turn the light on, or have a very dim night light that helps you see, or get remote controlled light bulbs, because the red does not disrupt our brain. You can still see perfectly well. It just doesn't, it tricks the brain into thinking, okay, it's still not thinking, but knowing that it's still rest time and we
All
can get back
right.
to sleep.
Thank you for that. Okay, you've got some tips for us.
Yes. Yeah. Because when you're sleeping, like I said, it's so important from, head to toe, brain and heart all gets fixed. Your immune system is also working overtime when you're sleeping to make sure you're staying healthy. So all of the inner workings of your body are at full bore when you are sleeping. So let that body do that. So the first thing I want to encourage people to do is get into a schedule and create a routine for yourself, a bedtime routine, and stick to that schedule. Go to bed at the same time. And of course, you're going to have one offs where you're going out with friends, going out to dinner, might go to a party. So you're going to have occasional one offs where your schedule is going to be disrupted. But for the most part, go to bed at the same time and stick to a schedule, because that will help you, and avoiding long naps, because long naps will impact your ability to fall asleep at night. So stick to a schedule is tip one. Tip two is have a routine when you go to bed. For me, it's I wash my face, I brush my teeth, I have a fan blowing just to create some white noise, and my lights get turned to red. And that's after I've read, because I usually read before I go to bed. And then I have a routine so that my body knows that when these things happen, it's time to, it's just the exact same thing you do with a child. You have a child on a routine, a bedtime routine, but as adults, we tend to move away from that. And it's so important to have routine when you're trying to be consistent with sleep, so routine gives consistency. And so resort back to when you were raising your kids and create a routine for yourself. Okay. And try not to be a night owl. A night owl does really impact your REM sleep, which is where your dreaming and memories really get filed away. So tip number 3 is absorb the sun. When you arise in the morning, try to get outside for 15 to 20 minutes and have the sun touch your skin. And here in Arizona, I know we're like, oh, gotta wear sunscreen. And yes, I'm not opposed to that. However, sunscreen does block UVA and UVB rays and our ability to create vitamin D. So we can take vitamin D, but it's not nearly as effective as you making your own vitamin D by being out in the sun. So get 10, I say 15 to 20 minutes of sun exposure on your skin so that you can break it up. You don't have to do it in one fell swoop in the morning, but it is quite lovely to get out and start your whole morning and day with the sun.
Yeah, we'd be crispy critters here if we did that. we have to be careful here in Arizona when it gets over 100 degrees out for 15, 20 minutes. We need, because and the other thing, of course, is protection for our skin, because you don't want to look like leather.
Right.
So there is that.
20 minutes isn't going to make you leathery, and it's important to get the vitamin D. And so, plus, if you're doing it early in the morning, the rays from the sun aren't as strong as far as like damaging your skin, because the sun is low on the horizon, but you're still going to benefit from being able to make vitamin D.
Okay.
So, but get out and get some exposed. And if you are wanting to eat your vitamin D, you can take vitamin D supplements. Just make sure that they're sourced from a good place. And foods that are high in vitamin D are like salmon, tuna, eggs. It's really fortified in a lot of foods now because it's so necessary. And believe it or not, even here in Arizona, we have a lot of people that are vitamin D deficient because we do so much skin protection, whether it be clothes or sunscreen. So because of that, it's amazing how many people here in Arizona are vitamin D deficient. So it's a balance. So tip number 4 is to make sure that you're exercising daily. Use your body, and I've said many times, if you've been watching this show, aim for 5 times a week, get 30 minutes in, at least 5 times a week. And that 30 minutes can still be broken up where you do 15 in the morning and 15 in the evening. But move your body, whether it's dancing, hiking, gardening, anything. Just make sure that you're using your body. And as we age, also getting some strength training in so that we maintain our muscle mass, because it does dissipate as we age. And we want to stay away from having, any kind of fall related injuries that, can really harm us. So make sure you're exercising, because it will help you sleep better. promise. Most
Okay.
people are like, I don't have any energy to exercise. Well, I can guarantee you that if you find the energy to exercise, you'll actually feel better and you'll be more energized. So it's kind of a oxymoronic thing, but things that do exhaust you can actually energize you.
Right.
So tip number 5 is to make sure that your room is cool, quiet, and dark. So I have, we don't have blackout shades, but we do make sure that we have shades on all the windows that where people sleep in this house. And we do lower the temperature at nighttime when we're sleeping. Ideally, you want to have it like 65 to 70, which is costly here in Arizona. So we don't do that because then my APS bill would be through the roof. But we do our best. And in the wintertime, it's lovely here enough to be able to open the windows and let the house get that cool. But not anymore since we hit 100 degrees yesterday.
Right.
Try to have it as cool as possible. And if you have fans, let fans run because it not only does it keep the air circulation going and can keep the room cooler, but it also creates a little bit of white noise. So make sure that your room is cool, dark, and quiet. So tip number 6 is to mind your electronics. So avoid, because you have a blue wave that comes from your electronics that really stimulates the brain. So shutting down electronics, an hour before you're going to bed, I usually say 2 if you can, which is really, really challenging since we have, these little phones that we have all the time and we're on social media and reading news and whatnot, and so and these laptops and iPads that make it so convenient. But really mind your electronics because they do send out a blue wave that stimulates the brain. So try to shut your electronics down, at least an hour before you're headed to bed. And avoid alcohol late in the day and caffeine because both of those will also because caffeine obviously is a stimulant. People use it actually as a stimulant throughout the day because they're so tired. So if you can try to get away from caffeine totally, that's even better. But definitely don't do it later in the day because it's going to impact your sleep. And then alcohol is sugar. So it definitely spikes your heart rate and it will disrupt your sleep. It's been proven time and time again. People think that they drink late at night and it makes them tired and because the alcohol inebriates, but at the same time, it's also spiking your heart rate unbeknownst to you, and it's keeping you awake at night. So avoid alcohol late at night.
Wow. Okay.
Last tip, because then I know we have a lot of questions, so we can circle back around to the questions. So the 8th tip is to mind your medicines. So when I say mind your medicines, it's just making sure that you're not taking anything at night, and talk to your doctor about this if you need to. Make sure you're not taking anything at night that can keep you awake. A lot of antidepressants, if people are taking them at nighttime, it can keep them awake. So if you are on antidepressant, strongly encourage you to talk to your doctor about taking it in the morning. A lot of cold medicines have stimulants in them. So if you're taking a cold medicine, make sure, headache medicines sometimes can have stimulants in them. So just mind your medicines and make sure that you're not taking anything late in the day, in the evening that could impact your sleep. And that might mean talking to your doctor. And it's definitely going to mean reading labels and understanding what's in the medicines. But I encourage you that if you're taking medicines, that you talk to your doctor and make sure that you're not taking anything that could be disrupting your sleep. Okay, so
Great.
those are the 8 tips. And I get a lot of questions about melatonin. And a lot of people don't know that we actually make our own melatonin. It's in the pineal gland. And so when you're taking melatonin on a very super, on a higher, higher than 5 milligrams, it can impact your own body's ability to make melatonin because you're taking it, so it doesn't need to make it. So I encourage people to not take melatonin on a consistent basis. If they're needing help out of the gate to like kind of get into a routine of sleeping, take it for a short period of time. And then it's not an addictive supplement. It's not at all. But try to allow yourself to make your own melatonin rather than taking it all the time. Another one that's good to take is Valorin root. That really helps. It's in tea. You can also buy it in a supplement. But yeah, melatonin it's a sleep hormone, and it's produced in our pineal gland in the brain, and it helps to regulate your sleep wake circadian rhythm, which is important. Some other things that you can do is drink chamomile tea. Chamomile
Mhm.
tea is, and I know a lot of people that don't like tea, but if you do like tea, tea is a wonderful thing to add to your evening routine if you like, because sometimes you can sit down with a nice cup of chamomile tea or a bedtime tea, and it also helps trigger the brain and the body knowing, okay, it's time to go ahead and relax and get ready for bed.
Someone
Um,
mentioned that they drink warm milk, something that their grandmother used to do for them.
so that's because milk is really high in magnesium. And magnesium is a biochemical reaction that, it helps to synthesize neurotransmitters and help mellow and get to sleep. So yeah, it's some people talk about old wives' tales, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably one of them, but yeah, more milk. That's a wonderful, if it's part of your routine and it lets your body know, like, hey, it's time, let's do it.
A
Uh,
nice warm bath. Somebody asked about white noise machines. Do they help?
Absolutely. Especially if you're in a noisy area. See, like where I live, it's very quiet out here. There's not street noise, there's no trucks. At one point, when my parents lived in Old Town Scotts or downtown Scottsdale at the waterfront, they were early in the mornings, you would hear the trash trucks and the delivery trucks, and it would be so disruptive. So if you're in a place where you have a lot of noise, street noise, white noise machines are great because it does drown out the rest of that. And if you have anything that could potentially make noise in your house that's disruptive, um, I mean, like I can even hear when my air conditioning clicks on, and I and I don't like it. So I run a fan because I want just the same sound. I don't want anything like startling me. But yeah, white noise machines work great.
Thanks for that question, Keenan. Really appreciate it. Hope that helps. I know they have a lot of different kind of machines that you can purchase. Some with when we talk about white noise, they have, different sounds, ocean sounds, this kind of stuff. I
Mhm.
mean, you can buy them where you can program it and it has so many different kinds. Now, what do you think about this app called Calm?
Oh, I'm so glad that somebody asked about that. So Calm is great, and so I encourage people to use that to get into a bedtime routine, or it can actually help give you middle of the night wake up strategies on how to get back to sleep. So the Calm app is you can use it to do adult bedtime stories, and it's a really great resource to get you into a routine.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. For those of us who like him, woo, you can listen to him tell you, all right, all right, all right. He
I was
will
like, he could read a bedtime story to me. That's totally fine.
anytime. That's going to work for me as well. That's awesome. Does it matter when you sleep? I mean, some people, I mean, does it have to be at night? Obviously, for people who work a night shift, they may have to sleep during the day. As long as they can make their room appear dark so that their brain isn't thinking that it's light, is that all that needs to happen so that they can get a good night's sleep?
Yes, I mean the problem with night shift work is we it does mess with our circadian rhythm because we are designed to be awake when the sun is up and sleeping when the sun is down. And so when you're doing night shift, it is challenging. So I when people do, yeah, if you're having to sleep during the day, you're going to need blackout shades probably. Make your room very as dark as you can. But then find time to get in the sun, because whether it be before you go to bed or after you go to bed. And the reason for that is just to be healthy. Like we need the sun. Like we're to live by the sun. So when you're doing night shifts, it's not the healthiest, and we always encourage people to do it for a short period of time and then get off of night shifts and do day shifts, and then you for a series for several weeks, and then you can go back to night shifts. But to constantly live that way is not the healthiest.
Well, I know some people then will, they'll, if they do work a night shift, they get off at 6 or 7 in the morning when the sun is coming up. And that's their opportunity, they say, to get a little bit of sun.
Yes, yes. And then, yep, because your
So,
rhythm is just off. if you're doing night shift work. But we need them. Like we need nurses at nighttime,
Yep,
firefighters. There's all kinds of people that have to do night shift work. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Well,
just
we
be
thank you
nice to
so
your body.
much. Yeah, be nice to your body and figure out what you need to do for the sun if you need to be out there. This for those of us in Arizona, I really think we need to be careful. So there's a balance, and I'm going to have to look some things up to help me along with what you shared today. Thank you for that, because I'm not going to be a crispy critter and
No.
looking 30 years older than I am because I've been in Arizona sun. Arizona sun is not very forgiving because it's not. If this was Hawaii where you have the water and all the rest to come off, it'd be a little bit different, I think.
Mhm.
Anyway, well, we
Yeah.
thank you. We thank you all for joining us today to learn a few things or to rediscover a few things about sleep. You can watch the recording of this and also some recordings of past sessions of Back to Basics. We appreciate you being here and we look forward to you joining us next month. We're here once a month now, and we look forward to seeing you the second Tuesday in June. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.